So today I want to make a video on how I make seamless reversible bikini bottoms. And I should have the patterns that I designed linked down in the description of this video, so look out for those. For this video I'm going to be using my own cheeky pattern. You can do a cheeky, thong, high-waisted. All you'll have to do is follow the same steps that I'm doing for the cheeky bottoms with your thong or your high-waisted. As usual, I'm going to start by listing out the materials that you need to make these bottoms. Since we are making this bikini bottom reversible, we're going to choose two fabrics. You can either choose a print or a solid color. Here I chose two solid colors. Then we have our weights here to hold down our fabric whenever we're cutting it out from the pattern. 100% polyester thread, a serger with an elastic application serger foot, fabric scissors, a cutting mat, our sewing machine, hand sewing needle, and then I also have my cheeky pattern here. So since we are making these bottoms reversible, we do want to cut out one front and one back piece for each color that we're using. So in this case, one front and one back piece of pink, and one front and one back piece of blue. Now remember, you always want to lay your pattern down with the greatest stretch of the fabric going from side to side. Think of it as you want the greatest stretch going across your body. Just finished cutting out one of my front pieces, and now we're going to cut out the rest. So we have a front piece and a back piece of the blue, a front piece and a back piece of the pink. Now our next step is going to be that we serge together this crotch area on the blue and on the pink. So we're essentially just making this into one piece and this into one piece. So before we serge our crotch areas together, we want to make sure that the right side of the fabric for the front piece is facing and touching the right side of the back piece. And one thing that I do want to mention is if any time throughout this process you feel that you need to pin something together before you serge it, that is completely fine. Just make sure to have your pins facing downwards so that you can easily slide them out whenever you're serging. I will purposely not be using pins, but feel free to use them if you need them. And whenever we serge, we want to make sure that this edge lines up with this edge on the serger here. We just finished serging along our crotch edges here. The two blue pieces are connected and the two pink pieces are connected. So we have our two pieces here, and right now we have both right sides facing up. We know both right sides are facing up because of this seamless edge here. So now we are basically just going to put the pink on top of the blue, or vice versa, and align the edges perfectly. So we want our seamless edge to touch this seamless edge, so we're going to flip it around. And line it up. So now we are getting ready to serge with elastic along the edges. So I went ahead and drew a picture showing you which edges we are going to serge along with the elastic attached. So all of the dotted lines here show the edges that we're going to serge along. So here, 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 and here. And yes, you are going to continue serging even with this seam here. You're just going to serge right over it. The edges that you will not serge at all are the sides. So if you wanted to pin down your suit at this point, you would pin it down along the edges that I showed you will be serged together. And you will completely avoid these sides here. So we are going to add the elastic to the machine and then go ahead and start serging. Alright, so I am using the clear elastic like I mentioned earlier, and I am about to attach the elastic to my machine. If you would like to see a more in-depth video on how to do that, I can post my video that I made on elastic in the description of this video. We are going to serge along those edges with the elastic attached. So we have just finished serging along the edges with the elastic, making sure to avoid these sides. I do want to mention that it is okay if these edges come out a little bit wonky. You can always iron them down. Make sure whenever you are ironing that you have a piece of fabric like cloth in between the iron and the swimsuit fabric so that nothing melts. But most of the time you don't even have to iron them. The swimsuit ends up looking fine whenever you flip it inside out. If it doesn't at that point, then you can iron it. So the next step that we need to do now is create a hole in order for us to turn our suit right side out whenever we are attaching these ends here. So ideally you want to choose a spot that's not that noticeable. So I always choose the back, and I'll create a hole that's large enough for me to turn my suit right side out. So about this large, and that is maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. So as you can see here, we just finished creating our hole using our scissors or seam ripper, and our elastic is still intact and the fabric is not cut. The next step is to flip our project right side out. So our bottoms are turned right side out. Now we want to just fold it over to where the sides line up. And we are basically just going to prepare these sides for when we sew them together. Grab 2 pins because you're going to use one for each side. The first thing that you need to do when you have these held together is you're going to place one inside of the other. So let's see here. We're literally just going to put this side inside of here. It doesn't matter which side goes into which side. Then we are going to pin this down, making sure to catch all layers. And we are going to do the same on the other side. So as you can see, we have both of our sides pinned together. And next we're going to use the hole that we made earlier to go inside towards one of the sides. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to get a tight grip on all of these layers. So once we have a tight grip, and we want to make sure that we have a tight grip because we want to keep these layers the exact same way that they are while they're pinned, is we are just going to take our pin out. So just go ahead, once you have the tight grip, as you can see this is my finger here holding all 4 of the layers. Pull your pin out. And you're going to flip this side inside out. So just pull inside out. And the way that the sides are matching up is exactly how you want it to stay. So you can hold down your thumb here and just pull everything out to where the edges line up, but you want to keep the same color with the same color. You don't want anything to get twisted. That's really the reason why this part is so crucial, is because you don't want this side to get twisted, because when you sew it down twisted, it is going to stay that way. So as you can see, we have our pink side with our pink side and our blue side with our blue side. The edges are matching up, and we are just going to pin this down. And sew this down. And I sew about a 1/2 inch from this edge here. So as you can see, I just finished sewing along the edge, making sure to back stitch a few times on the top and the bottom. I'm going to take out my pin. You can also cut off this excess fabric here. And now you can see whenever I flip it inside out, or right side out, that you have the edges attached. Now we just need to do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so in order to finish up these bottoms, the only thing that you need to do is sew this hole closed. You can either use a sewing machine and just sew right over it with a clean line, or you can hand sew it shut to keep the edges seamless. Here you can see everything is seamless, and if you want, you can turn this around. I do want to remind you one more time that even though I used a cheeky pattern for this seamless reversible bottom, if I would have used a thong pattern or high-waisted pattern, the steps would have been exactly the same. And I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make these seamless reversible bottoms. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, see ya!